Yeah, we had a previous guest on the show that we interviewed last week who also is currently a venture capitalist and he's working in the startup realm. And he sort of spoke to I posed the exact same question to him, which is, what is your suggestion to people who want to go to these like these moonshot companies? And his initial reaction was that he never applied to those in the first place. He's worked with people there,
Mhm.
and he would rather prefer to stay away from those companies entirely. And when I asked him why, he's like, well, the simple thing is because I sort of have the other drive in me, the hustle to build my own and to sort of leave my own mark in sort of that kind of sense. Yeah,
Mhm.
and he even mentioned the fact that he believes, to in his opinion, that it was sort of like an overhyped kind of thing. It's being sold to us that you just go work for these companies, but then again, you're working for a company at the end of the day. Like you might be
Exactly.
work on a project, but at the end of the day, like these so-called developer like job roles are essentially something that's more of a um, maintenance kind of task versus as being like sort of like the trailblazers. Did you kind of have a role while you were in the Bay Area, while you were kind of working on some sort of like big project? Were you able to do that with that kind of clearance, or was it more just sort of the standard developer role?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Just because some of these companies are huge, like let's say Google, for example, right? Huge company, and there's various things you can possibly work on, right? Some of them could be really good and very good for the company's business and like good for a customer, and some of them could be just maintenance really roles. So saying that you work at Google, for example, sometimes it could just be like, okay, I'm like obviously you've put in a lot of hard work to work there, to get a job there. But that's not like the gold standard, right? A person working at a startup could get the exact same satisfaction from working there because they feel that they're working on like some very important stuff and stuff that's close to their heart, and like actually making an impact. So which is why a lot of people say, okay, look at startups, for example, because you actually be are able to make an impact there. But that's not to discredit these bigger companies. Obviously, you're still doing good work there.
Mhm.
At least at least as an intern, I think it's not wrong. Like having at least one of these big internships on your resume can really help. Like there is no denying that even if you do apply to a startup or try or like found a startup and try to get funding, they will look at your previous work experience, and having one of these big names doesn't hurt, especially if you're really young in your career. So having a good balance of the two is really important. Not
Mhm.
like not skewed in one direction, just so you can have a holistic experience. I'd say.
Mhm.
So yes, definitely agree with your point. But yeah, there is definitely some like value in that.
Mhm.
And for me personally, I always selected the internship based on like the team I was going to be on. So not based on the company. Company doesn't name doesn't really matter, but it's the team on the company that matters.
Mhm.
Like when I was working at Facebook, I knew the team that I was going to be working on in advance, and I knew that it seems like it's very important work. And when I actually worked on it, I did realize that it's very impactful project. And I was able to actually roll it out to customers. Like a lot of times, when you go in these standard developer roles, you don't actually get to work on something that's in production or like that real people are using. It's just there. It's a side project for the company itself. That's something that not necessarily gives you a lot of satisfaction. But this thing, the project that I was working on, the fact that I could roll it out to over a billion users, have that impact, be able to see the metrics in real time, would give me the same kind of satisfaction as if I worked at a startup because all these teams um, obviously work really autonomously and kind of behave like a startup. So it really depends on like the team you're working on as opposed to the company, I'd say.